Well, off the biggie today's episode, we've just been able to do enough to make sure that we should have some European football here next season at Jahn Regensburg. Today we're going to play our last two games of the season and see just what competition that's going to be in. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 83 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up to our last two games here of this 2031-32 Bundesliga season. With Jahn Regensburg first up, we do take on Bayer Leverkusen, who sit inside fourth, a must-win game for us here if we want to somehow qualify for the Champions League next season. And then final day we take on Gladbach away, who unfortunately for them have just blown a chance to actually pick up the title because they have kind of got a bit bottly and have fallen off Bayern Munich, who these days are the champions. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to that as well as the end of season review and all that sort of stuff. Coming up off the back of these two games that got through quite a bit of action off camera since yesterday's episode where we did take on Eintracht Frankfurt and Cologne. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. To be fair, it's been pretty standard stuff in terms of an FM save when we're dropping points away from home but not losing, which to be fair in some of those games is not too great. Hamburg, they're actually not awful, so I don't mind the 1-0 draw there, or the second half goal to Rivera to make sure we got something out of that game. Werder Bremen though down in the relegation zone, so that was very, very poor to come back in that game as well, thanks to Fabian Fernandes. To be fair though, our last away game was a bit better at that point. We picked up in an incredibly boring 0-0 draw, but it was against Bayern Munich. So to be fair, that's a bit of an improvement off the back of those previous away results. And also, we have been picking up the wins at home as you'd expect. 2-0 over Wolfsburg, 2-1 over Stuttgart, and 4-1 over a Darmstadt team who probably are going to set a record for the lowest points ever in a Bundesliga season. They have not won a single game with only one left. Them and Werder Bremen already guaranteed to be going down, but they have a minus 62 goal differential and have only got 4 points. To be fair, was quite concerning for a little while in their game we played against them because it was 1-1 there for a little bit, but thankfully got our 18 gear late on there in the second half. So the fact that we've not actually lost any games off the back of yesterday's episode, and also the teams chasing us in Hoffenheim and Borussia Dortmund in particular have been struggling, does mean that with 2 games left in our season, we've got a 3-point gap over Hoffenheim, but those guys have already played on the second to last match day, and their goal differential is 20 worse than us. Borussia Dortmund a point further back. They can't catch us. We definitely should have some European football here next season at Jahn Regensburg, albeit if we do check out Schalke, there's a little bit potentially of a banana skin if we do stay in 7th spot, because they are taking on Eintracht Frankfurt in the DFB-Pokal Final. Eintracht Frankfurt also guaranteed to have some European football for next season, but if we finish 7th and Eintracht Frankfurt stuff things up in that final, which actually is not too out of the realms of possibility, you'll see that Bayern actually got beaten by Schalke in the semis, and Eintracht Frankfurt a 3-3 draw in the last game where they did take on Schalke. So actually 7th might not be enough for European football here next season, depending on what does happen in that DFB-Pokal Final. But in terms of the league performance, we've done as much as we can, but hopefully can find a way here to jump above one of RB Leipzig, Eintracht Frankfurt, or even Bayer Leverkusen to make sure that we're not on the bubble there and could miss out if that DFB-Pokal Final does not go our way. And first up, a chance for us here to make things really interesting going into the final day of the season as we take on Bayer Leverkusen. They sit in 4th. If we win both our games and they lose both of theirs, there is a chance that we could actually qualify for the Champions League still. So a big game for us here first up in today's episode. They've been really good ever since they appointed Niko Kovac, and that's another reason that this game is very interesting. His contract expires at the end of the season. There's been some news items popping up. Apparently, we're the favourite to take over. There's been no approaches yet saying as he's still in the job. But yeah, this could be our next job in waiting here, the team that we're about to take on first up in today's episode. So in a weird way, it might not be the worst thing here if they did actually grab some points off us and qualify for the Champions League. That might make our life a bit easier if they come for us during the course of the off-season. But of course, we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. We want to win this game. But ever since Niko Kovac has been in charge, we've been really poor. We bumped them the first time that we took on this Bayer Leverkusen team, but since then, it's been 2 draws and 2 losses, and most of those results have been coming with the 4-2-3-1. It does feel like off the back of those last couple of results that we have picked up, in particular the 0-0 draw at Bayern, even though it wasn't that special. It's a pretty good point, that one. We are sticking here with the 4-3-3 because the analyst report is not too clear-cut for this game in terms of the suggested formation. We don't use a 4-4-2 normal. That's apparently the best one by far here against this Bayer Leverkusen team. But all the rest are kind of stuck there on +1. The way we're going with our 4-3-3 compared to the 4-2-3-1, I do think that maybe as well as those minute stats there, the 4-3-3 might be a little bit of a better idea for this first game in today's episode. So fingers crossed here, we can get the job done now. Unfortunately, Rene Müller is still out with an injury, pulled ankle ligaments. He's going to miss here the last couple of games of the season. Beefy Sandro Veloso might be the form player at the entire club, an 8.34 average rating over the course of his last couple of games for the homegrown striker. So if we need to use him off the bench here in place of Rivera, that might not be the worst thing. Rivera actually hasn't been that hot recently, but we are going here with a very strong team. It's our best 11 that we're going to put out here for this first game of today's episode. Of course, these days, we've got those week-long gaps, as we mentioned off the back of that Eintracht Frankfurt game first up in yesterday's episode. That certainly helped us, it feels like, in this little run home that we have had, even though a few of those away results we have been picking up have been a little bit disappointing before that Bayern game. We really could still be in a big fight there for a Champions League spot. Now we do need quite a bit of luck with this Bayer Leverkusen team and need to beat them here. Otherwise, there's zero chance of Champions League for us next season. And of course, that would be a regression for the first time since we've come here to Jahn Regensburg. So that would not be ideal. Also, the players here are just feeling like they're not too keen on us these days. The dynamics have been going down a little bit of late. We've been trying not to get too harsh on them, but they have been dropping points in some games that we really shouldn't be doing so in. So it feels like the players here currently aren't on our side here at Jahn Regensburg, but let's see if we can find a way to get the job done here over Nico Kovac's Bayer Leverkusen team. If we don't, that certainly will make things interesting going to that final day of the season. We will need to pick up some points there away at Gladbach to try and hopefully jump above someone like Leipzig or Eintracht Frankfurt into a Europa League qualifying spot to make sure that the DFB-Pokal Final doesn't mean anything to us. But the first highlight here of this game, unfortunately, the away team here, who are in the all black, they float that one far post. It's a header there from Ada Batata, not too hot on it, but thankfully just does enough there to bundle that one away. No need there for goal line technology, but a few minutes later, it's a corner here too by Leverkusen, and Matulo will head that one home into that bottom right corner. So unfortunately, not too hot from us early here. It's been by Leverkusen, who have been on the front foot. Talia is wide open at the far post, but instead, it's the left back, I believe, who heads that one home. It's been a shocking start. We go 1-0 down, so unfortunately, the 4-3-3 not working too well early in this game. Leverkusen have been all over us here inside of the first 20 minutes. And of course, Jimenez, that balling midfielder, picked up a yellow card after 1 minute. So not too great there from the defensive midfielder. He has been a card magnet. To be fair, that's a role that maybe we need to consider switching going into next season, because lots of cards there in that position. Jimenez should be a very good player, but does get in a ton of suspension trouble. Thankfully, shots-wise, a few more off here in the second part of this first half, but really, those first couple of highlights there by Leverkusen looking super threatening through their tall lads, the defenders who have got forward, and unfortunately, 1-0 down there from that corner. Will take off here Cuervo on a yellow card for Ruslan. La Rosa for Jimenez on that yellow card as well. We'll bring Alanis on there for Fernandez, not going too well, and Rivera as well on a 6.4. So Veloso, as I said, probably at the moment the form player here at the club, can also come on at halftime. But really, poor first half that one, but we'll tell the guys that we've still got some faith in them, and let's see if that might get them on our side here going into the second half. But really, that was not good in the first half so far. No shots on target in a home game, and now it's here by Leverkusen with a free kick. Thankfully, that one a bit too far out to catch out Batata, and they don't get that header on target. But so far, a very poor performance here inside the first hour of this game. Let's just see if something kicks off here before we actually tick over that mark. And indeed, there is a set piece. Ruslan off the bench, but unfortunately, that one goes just wide. So that is a little bit of a blow. Also, I've just noticed I forgot to put back in for this game Ballerini instead of Fakanya off the back of a suspension in that game against Darmstadt. So that might have been a little bit of a mistake. So not actually quite at full strength here, because of my boo, but now we've made our final sub here. Lazar comes on there for Lewis Walden, who was looking like he was a bit average with only about 25 minutes left. And now, with 20 to go, we will switch here to a 4-2-3-1 because there's nothing really happening. And in fact, we might try something a little bit old school like Buxton, go here with an asymmetrical 4-1-1-3-1. That's what we did at Buxton for a large majority of our time here with this tactic. Let's see if that might work out a little bit here of a hybrid for the last 20 minutes of this game, seeing as we're struggling big time, and the 4-2-3-1 has also been quite poor, and thankfully it pays off. Lazar will put that one home, albeit the assistant referee there might have put their flag up, and I'm not too sure why, because it looked like a pretty clear-cut goal. Unfortunately, it will not be, so the switch there to asymmetric, it nearly pays off. Alanis there with the shot, and they've ruled there that Belosso's got in the way of the goalkeeper, who was not getting anywhere near that shot there from Lazar. We've been robbed big time, but to be fair, the way we've been playing in this game, it's hard to argue we don't deserve to be losing. Now it's time for us here to go higher tempo with only 10 minutes left, and also let's chuck here La Rosa on to support our right back onto attack, as well as our left winger in Facundo Alanis, our goalkeeper here, to distribute quickly as well, and see if that will get us on the front foot even more. Certainly a few more highlights here in our favour since we've made that switch. Hawkera with a free kick, but unfortunately can't quite put that one on target, and it does go over the bar. Also, if we do lose this game, could get in trouble with some Champions League release clauses. So all of a sudden, life here might look a little bit difficult at Jahn Regensburg for next season, but hopefully can at least grab an equaliser. No, we can't, because La Rosa does put that one over the bar, feeling a bit filthy off the back of that disallowed goal there through Lazar, but still on the front foot here. A free kick. Alanis will try and put that one away. He was offside, and Urbig comes up there with a big old save, but there's lots of highlights late off the back of that switch we made, but unfortunately this one looks like it's in favour of Bayer Leverkusen. Dorgales here makes his way forward down that left-hand side. They switch here out right. A good shot there from that right winger, but thankfully he was also offside, so it's still only 1-0. Let's see if going even more high tempo might pay off, as well as being more expressive and going wider, as we're about to make our way into only 3 minutes here of added time. XG-wise, we've actually been the best team in this game, but unfortunately, there's nothing to show for it. That disallowed goal there from Lazar, that could be a big moment, because that might have cost us something from that game, but it does mean that now there is no chance of Champions League football for us here next season at Jahn Regensburg. It's going to be one of the Europa League or the Conference League, and we need to win on the final day of the season to make sure that it could be the Europa League, and even then it might not matter if the teams above us there in RB Leipzig or Eintracht Frankfurt, they pick up wins, because that is a bit of a costly loss for us, that one there. A little bit harsh, that disallowed goal there through Lazar, but still weren't going to win that game. It's a 1-0 defeat to Bayer Leverkusen. So unfortunately, no chance of Champions League football for us now here next season at Jahn Regensburg off the back of that 1-0 defeat to Bayer Leverkusen, but still, we could potentially jump above here Leipzig or Frankfurt and snare some Europa League football. So fingers crossed here can get the job done when we take on Gladbach, albeit these guys have been a little bit of a funny team for us to take on so far this season. We did actually play really well against them the last time we were away from home when we took these guys on. They're already qualified for the Champions League and can't win the title. So to be fair, they've not got much to play for here on this final day of the season. Let's hope that's something that might work in our favour. But of course, the last time we took these guys on, we looked really good for the large majority of the first half in that game. But then Ruslan got a red card and they just battered us there in the remainder of that game once we switched from the 4-3-3 to the 4-2-3-1. So despite the fact that actually the 4-2-3-1 apparently is the best formation for this game, we're going to do what worked there for most of the first half in that quarterfinal of the DFB-Pokal, even though we did not score, and going to stick here with the 4-3-3, which was quite good there in that Bayer Leverkusen game. Unfortunately, we just could not score, so fingers crossed here can find a way to pick up a result on this final day of the season. The other games that we're really keen on keeping an eye on here for this day, considering the teams who are just above us, RB Leipzig, they take on Stuttgart at home, so really that's one that they should be winning. The team that we're probably more likely to go above is Eintracht Frankfurt, because they host Cologne, who, to be fair, also not much to play for there. They've already qualified for the Champions League next season, but they do sit in fourth, so maybe that's the game there that could work in our favour. But we do need to win this one and hope that Cologne can beat Frankfurt outright, because their goal differential actually is a little bit better than ours. Leipzig is the team we're more likely to go above based on goal differential, but they've got Stuttgart, who are not much chop and actually do need to get something out of that game to make sure that they don't drop into a relegation playoff spot. So Stuttgart actually could do us a favour, but more likely it's going to be Cologne as they take on Eintracht Frankfurt. But either way, going to be a bit tough for us here to avoid getting to a bit of a perilous position with that Conference League spot, considering the situation with that DFB-Pokal Final where Schalke do take on Eintracht Frankfurt. So in a weird way, we might actually want Frankfurt to get their form going and hopefully pick up a win there over Cologne, because the Conference League should be quite winnable for us outside of the English teams, considering just how good we were in that competition last season. We pretty much played a full rotation throughout most of it and made our way through the semis and also finished second in the Bundesliga. So in a weird way, that Conference League could be a super useful comp for us here at Jahn Regensburg, just get ourselves back inside of a Champions League qualifying spot, but also we've already done the Conference League. Kind of felt like Europa League might be something a bit better and a bit more of an achievement as well if we could go quite deep in that competition. But unfortunately, it's partly out of our hands here on the final day of the season off the back of those drop points at home to Bayer Leverkusen, our first home loss for a wee while in this save, which is going to be interesting, of course, considering the situation with Niko Kovac. No contract extension yet, so maybe that's something that we do get offered during the course of tomorrow's episode. If we get offered anything at all, there could be a few departures during the course of the off-season. Obviously, Dortmund, they're not going to finish inside of a European qualifying spot on the front foot here early, and unfortunately, Ruslan can't quite put that one home. He's come back in here for Decore with his set-piece danger from aerial situations. Unfortunately, does not pay off, and also Ballerini in there right back off the back of that boo-boo I made in that first game. In today's episode, now Gueye there with a free kick, thankfully, but I didn't get there, but the post helps us out to do big chances here early for both teams, and the woodwork has come to the rescue of the team on the defence. And now it's us here from a set piece, and Ruslan, who got sent off in that DFB-Pokal quarter final, will make amends here and make it 1-0 with a near post corner goal. I think it said there his 4th of the season, just showing that he hasn't been as good as he has been here in previous seasons from these set pieces, but thankfully he steps up here when it might matter most. It'll be interesting to see now what updates we do get from those other games, but fingers crossed here we can hold on and beat this Gladbach team, get a bit of revenge for that DFB-Pokal quarterfinal. As I said, with this tactic, it was going pretty similarly to how it is in this game, complete domination. We just couldn't score and then got a red card. Fernandes thankfully has made his way through to halftime without picking up a second yellow, but pretty happy with that first half. Well and truly on the front foot here with our 4-3-3. We will make the sub though. Alanis coming on there for Fernandes and get him to not ease off tackles, obviously, as he's not sitting on a yellow card, but very happy with that first half. Let's hope now we can hold on and also get a favour from Cologne or Stuttgart to make sure we'll hop in the Europa League for next season. There's very little chance that we're going to get boosted by the coefficient, because I'm pretty sure that we in Germany are 5th or 6th on that this season. It's definitely not going to be helped out by that as well, as our goalkeeper Patada just can't come in and claim anything. The little Brazilian midget, and Mark Wu will put that one away and make it 1-1. So unfortunately, despite our complete dominance so far of this game, they make it 1-1 early in the second half. Kramashi will put that ball in there despite the fact that we should be stopping crosses, and Patada, for another episode, because he's done that quite a bit lately, kind of comes out, doesn't get there, and then just flops in the middle in between the goal line and the header. So unfortunately, that makes it 1-1. And still here, Gladbach, who are on the attack. Some lovely passing, and Wu will pick up a double. It's time for us here to break, because we've done not much here at halftime in terms of changes. We've tried to be kind to our guys and tell them they're doing well, and it hasn't worked, because they've come out of the sheds here and defended like an absolute bunch of muppets. A little bit unfortunately there for Hawkera. That tackle on Bajatic does not quite pay off, and Wu will put that one away. He is an absolute goal machine here in the Bundesliga. For some reason, he just stays onside there too, and they've had 2 shots on target, and they make it 2-1, and the XG is still lower than ours. So really disappointed here with our defence early in the second half. We'll take off some players here in defence, not going too well. So hitting at left back for Villani, and also La Rosa for Jimenez, who's been a bit of a letdown, it has to be said, in that ball-winning role, albeit, as I said before, we might change that going to next season, because it just doesn't seem to work too well. And now we've encouraged just we're about to have a set piece in our favour. So unfortunately, we're still 2-1 down, which definitely would only see us get some Conference League football for next season. Lucchini now drops down to a red heart, so Adama Kamara can come on for him. And also, Lewis Walden's going fairly. Let's bring on Lazar there at right wing and see if that will do anything, but still playing quite well here in this game stats-wise. But somehow, we're 2-1 down. That poor start to the second half, so not going well for us here in this away day. We are going to put our players here onto some more attacking roles with only about 7 minutes left here in this game and see if that might pay off. Also, we'll be more expressive and go wider, just like we did late on there in that game where we did take on by Leverkusen. We won't switch to that asymmetrical 4-2-3-1 because the beefy, the 4-3-3, is performing quite well stats-wise, but just not quite getting the job done. And thankfully, Henning does step forward there and win that ball back for us from that free kick. A bit of a mistake there at the back from Gladbach, but unfortunately, no foul there on the goalkeeper from our attacker. I'm not too sure if that was Rivera or it might have been Alanis, but anyway, it was play on. So unfortunately, a chance there for a penalty. It doesn't quite fall in our favour, but we do get the ball back here. Let's hope that this highlight might be a goal because it has been a little bit of a long one. Neil Lazar starts to make his way forward there down that right-hand side, floats it in there, and Louis Hawkera will charge onto that one as a centre mid on attack and make it 2 also. Thankfully, we might get something out of this game, which is the least we deserve, just that really poor period there after half-time. But apart from that, we've been the team here on the front foot. But Hawkera charges onto that one and buries it in the top right corner, makes it 2 all. And fingers crossed now we can kick on and pick up a win. We won't quite check around the ground yet because we actually need to win for this to mean anything and try and make our way up into a Europa League qualifying spot. And unfortunately, that won't happen. A costly period there off back of half-time. 2 kind of our guys there with that 1-0 lead with our team talk, and they switched off defensively. So unfortunately, it's a 2-all draw. But Tada, not too sure about him these days. He needs to come out more. Maybe a sweeper keeper on attack instead of a sweeper keeper on defend, because he just doesn't quite commit when we need him to. And I'm getting a bit annoyed at him because that's cost us some big points here in the back half of the season. And that's the reason that next year we will be playing Conference League football instead of Europa League. We need to win there and some favours to make sure we jump above one of Eintracht Frankfurt or RB Leipzig. Let's see if that actually would have made a difference if we picked up a win there. Lots of processing. So must be some stuff going on here on this final day of the Bundesliga season. We'll make our way quickly here through this interview. We definitely deserve something from that game. Gladbach have got very lucky yet again, and unfortunately, RB Leipzig got beaten by Stuttgart. So that actually is a costly mistake there from Batata because our goal differential would have seen us jump above them as well as the couple of extra points. So unfortunately, our goalkeeper might just cost us the some Europa League football. It's going to be the Conference League next season off the back of that 2-all draw at Gladbach. So unfortunately, couldn't quite get the job done there and make our way into Europa League qualifying spot for next season. Of course, that's actually still not confirmed because the DFB-Pokal Final to Schalke, they could take away our joy there if they can beat Eintracht Frankfurt in that final. But it is time now for our budgets, despite the fact that Europe isn't actually guaranteed yet for next season, thanks to Batata and his uselessness in that second part of the season. And our budget, it isn't actually that great. We've only got £13 million to spend, which is not too much. Now, wage budget goes up to 1.1 million, which to be fair is not awful, but it's not the hugest rise. So actually, not too much to work with here next season unless we make some sales going in to that one here at Jahn Regensburg. But for now, kind of in limbo waiting to see what happens in the final of the DFB Pokal. And going for a little bit, we've got an end of season review here for this one at Jahn Regensburg, where unfortunately, again, we picked up 0 trophies, but to be fair, we've known that a long way out off the back of our quarterfinal loss in the DFB Pokal, never really in the Bundesliga title race, and also got knocked out in that first knockout round of the Champions League. So really not that close to one this season. We still have not picked up a trophy here at Jahn Regensburg, but somehow our signing of the season, not really the timing for this game. It's Batata. Average rating wise, he wasn't too bad, but boy oh boy, he made some mistakes that felt like nothing too obvious according to the match engine, but just super unconvincing when trying to claim those balls into the box. And we conceded some pretty big goals there later on in the season. To be fair, attribute-wise, he does look like a very good player, but yeah, not too happy with him currently even though he's picked up our signing of the season for Laney, probably can feel a bit hard done by, but to be fair, only 6 assists there since coming in for away Dawn, so maybe that's what's held him back, the fact that he was only here for 6 months, but based on average rating, he's the guy that should be signing the season. Louis Rivera, it turned out to be a really good first choice striker for us, usurping Rene Muller, and signed a bunch of guys who, to be fair, were more squad players than first teamers, apart from Decore, who came in halfway through the season as well, with the spare money that we did get from that away Dawn sale. But a lot of players there that we did sign who weren't first team regulars. To be fair, some of them actually were not too sure what's going on here with the game, saying that they're in Regensburg too. Ballerini was our first choice right back. We had Jimenez, who was pretty average for a first choice defensive midfielder. But yeah, somehow Potato there has got our signing of the season, which I was not too pleased to see. Here's all the players that we did get rid of. A few here for some quite big fees. Obviously, Owusu Adodo going to the start of the season to Saudi Arabia. In hindsight, that might have not been a good idea off the back of what Potato did in the back half of the season. Going down further, the other big sale that we did make, which was in January, away Dawn to Real Madrid. He's played 6 games, so really, that was quite a nice bit of money there for someone that they're not using. And going down further, a fair bit of money as well for some squad players that we did get rid of too in our loans out. There's a couple, but they've not got much potential. They might be players that do get transfer listed going to the start of next season. Going forward to this season results, the Bundesliga was pretty good for the first half of the season, but eventually, once we got stuck into our Champions League campaign, and especially in the second half off the back of the winter break, that's when things, they did go quite bad, especially off the back of that 3-0 over Gladbach in our first game off the back of that break. Then it went quite poorly, to be fair, taking on some quite good teams around them, but still, our form very inconsistent throughout the back half of the season, and that's why we sunk down from inside of that top 4 into, thankfully, still a Conference League qualifying spot. Because going over to the DFB-Pokal, there's the final result. Schalke did get beaten 3-1 by Eintracht Frankfurt, so Frankfurt there do give us a hand there in that cup final. We did quite well in the DFB-Pokal up until that Ruslan red card. We were well on top of Mönchengladbach, despite being 1-0 down in that quarterfinal. So a bit disappointing there how we did exit from the DFB-Pokal. Champions League, it was actually a pretty good campaign, only a couple of losses there away at Eintracht Frankfurt and Monaco, but just missed out on making our way straight through to the round of 16. We got Juventus, and a poor second half there also proved costly. A bit of a running theme in the second part of this season here at Jahn Regensburg. So unfortunately got knocked out there of the Champions League a bit earlier than I was hoping for. The biggest win, 6-1 over Darmstadt, because those guys, probably the worst ever team in the Bundesliga. They were that bad this season with their 4 points match. To remember our 3-0 derby win over Augsburg back in September, and a week off the back of that was our goal of the season. Alanis just before halftime in a 4-0 win over Eintracht Frankfurt. And here's that goal of the season. It's on the counter-attack here. We play the ball forward to Alanis just outside the box. To be fair, it's a bit of a worm burner, but still not a bad goal there into that bottom left corner. Good enough to apparently pick up our goal of the season. Going forward here to the finances, our club reputation is still solid at 4 stars. The sponsorship revenue, that's even. Our competition prize money, that's gone down, which I suppose comes from the fact that last season we finished second in the Bundesliga and also made our way through to the semis of the Conference League. So in the end, not too much benefit there from actually playing in the Champions League compared to the Conference League, and everything else has gone up. Obviously, the broadcast revenue quite a bit with the Champions League. So overall, the Champions League was probably quite good for us. But yeah, we didn't have quite as good a season, seeing as the competition was a lot stiffer. The top shirt sellers this season, Rivera, Hawkera, Walden, Salas, and Jimenez going forward to our best 11 for this past season. Batata in goal. He's actually one of our better players this year on a 7.01. The back 4, that makes sense. Ruslan was there for most of the season before Decore did come in, as was Uwe Dorn before he went to Real Madrid. That defensive midfield, Hawkera alongside La Rosa, that shows you just how average that Jimenez was. The attacking midfielder, that makes sense. While on that right wing, we've got Fernandes. Left wing, DP Kamara over Lucchini is also something that maybe suggests that Lucchini could get moved on going into next season. Rivera up top, as I said, he definitely established himself as our first choice striker over Rene Muller. Going forward to this year's awards, the fans player of the season does go to Fabian Fernandes on a 7.0, but the young player of the season with the same rating was Adama Kamara. Batata, as you saw earlier, got that signing of the season in Alanis with the goal of the season. Top goal scorer, Rivera with 17. The most assists was Fernandez with only 7. So actually, pretty low number there by our standards at Jahn Regensburg. The most man of the matches, it was Batata with 5. So yeah, that's very interesting work from him. He was all rocks and diamonds for the back part of this season, and nothing there in terms yet of competition awards. The record breakers, our highest transfer fee paid was for Decore in January. Not too sure how Uwe Dawn's not on there as our highest fee received, but youngest goal scorer was Nils Hansen after we did sign him as a young wonder kid, and going forward to the history in the making. Very good at the start of the season, but kind of blew it in that back half when the Champions League knockouts, they did kick in. And just going here and seeing what's been added to our manager timeline off the back of the end of last season, we did pick up the German Players Manager of the Year last year, and going forward, Lucchini then finished second in signing of the season. We signed Batata, which did feel quite good at the time as a backup, but then we did sell Owusu Adolu for a club record fee at that stage of 30 million. Then our biggest signing of Decore, going forward even more, Uwe Dawn, which was for a actual club record of 31 million, so not too sure why that didn't pop up before. Also, the most sales we made in a year of 107 million. A couple of youngsters we signed there in January. I'm pretty sure mostly on pre-contracts, but TO pages we bought in early to become homegrown club, and got a couple of players on the next gen list as well. So to be fair, there's not too much being added there to our manager timeline for the season. And in terms of the overall best 11 for the club, if we go down and check this out, Fabian Fernandez has been added up top in a 4-4-2, which is all sorts of weird considering that we're using a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. But there's that team. A couple more players now who we've had our fingerprints on in the save, but still a bit of a mix there of from before we got here as well as since we've got here. But thankfully, the big news from that end of season review is we've got Conference League football for next season off the back of Schalke losing that DFB-Pokal Final, but we're still waiting for the Bundesliga promotion relegation game playoff results as well as who's picked up the Champions League and the other European titles. And going forward about a week off the back of the end of season review, and we've finally got the playoff results here for the Bundesliga. You'll see one there in that bottom left corner, but in the end, it's actually Freiburg also going down alongside Werder Bremen, and of course that awful Darmstadt team, because they got beaten there by Magdeburg 2-1 in the playoffs. The 3 teams going down from the Bundesliga this season. It does mean that 3 teams come up there alongside Magdeburg from the 2 Bundesliga. That's going to be Bochum as well as Nuremberg. So those are 3 new teams here in the Bundesliga for next season, going down there from the second tier. Elversberg, Kaiserslautern, as well as Chemnitz. But also the European results here in the save. Of course, this season we were taking part in the Champions League, so we'll check that first. It was a North London derby final, thankfully. FM knows that Arsenal are allergic to European titles. Tottenham Hotspur, they picked that one up there 3-2, so thankfully FM isn't quite broken yet. Going down a bit further into the Europa League, and it was Napoli who got past Aston Villa in a penalty shootout to pick up the Europa League. So that does mean Napoli have Champions League football next season. Not too sure if they would have got that through their league position in Italy. In fact, yes, they did, because they finished seconds. Actually, I'm talking bollocks. There was Inter Milan who picked up their Serie A, and going down to the Conference League, Lazio, so a bit of Italian domination here in Europe this season. They pick up that Conference League 2-1 over Marseille in the final. But that will wrap things up here for this season at Jahn Regensburg. Overall, a little bit average, it has to be said, dropping down to 7th there in the Bundesliga and getting knocked out there a little bit earlier than we would have liked in both the DFB Pokal as well as the Champions League. But if you enjoyed that season, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Now, we'll come back tomorrow, probably for a little bit of a transfer window run through. We'll see if we're going to do any business here at Jahn Regensburg, or of course, if there's going to be some job offers for us, because it feels like it might be an off-season, in which that is the case, obviously, with that Bayer Leverkusen situation that we detailed earlier. And also, we're already the favourite for a couple of jobs that have popped up, but we'll save that for tomorrow's episode. And as well as that, we've got the Euros and Copa America as well, so it could be a little bit of an interesting off-season that we do have coming up in tomorrow's episode. Will we still be here at Jahn Regensburg, or will we find our 3rd club of the save? Until tomorrow, we will find out. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.